on the plane coming here because I do feel like, yeah, I think we got to change the narrative.
For a long stretch of time, Milan Harris was the picture of discretion. She moved like a shadow in an industry addicted to noise. While gossip blogs were salivating, trying to paint her as Meek Mill's side chick, she stayed silent. When whispers got louder, hinting at a pregnancy, she didn't rush to confirm or deny. Even when their romance fizzled and he went his way, Milan didn't throw shade or go running to the press. Instead, she kept her chin up and her focus locked on her lane, her rapidly growing fashion empire. To the outside world, she was a woman who refused to be reduced to drama. But if you think silence equals emptiness, think again. Insiders swear that behind that calm exterior, she was carrying more weight than anyone realized. Because while the world saw Milan loving a man in public, the private version of her was quietly studying the very industry that powered his success. They say she was hearing things, conversations not meant for her ears, names that carried power, stories that didn't line up. Patterns started forming, and in those patterns was a word that made her uneasy: training. Now on the surface, that sounds innocent. Artists train all the time. Media classes, stage prep, vocal lessons. It's part of the game.
Yeah, I feel like we were in a struggle, but we didn't know that we were in a struggle. I feel like when you're in it, sometimes you don't understand until you get out of it. It was just what we knew.
But what Milan allegedly pieced together was not about branding or vocal warm-ups. According to people close to her, this training was code for something far darker, something hidden behind closed doors. It was whispered to be an initiation of sorts, a quiet system designed not to polish talent, but to break it, to test obedience, to blur lines until you couldn't tell where professionalism ended and exploitation began. And in those quiet years, Milan allegedly found herself closer to those shadows than she ever wanted to be. To be clear, she's never publicly accused Meek of being part of anything sinister. She hasn't pointed fingers or named names. But those same sources insist she couldn't ignore what was around him: the power structures, the unspoken codes, the rooms where deals and secrets live side by side. And if you think this is just another dime a dozen music rumor, think again. What was being suggested wasn't that Meek was doing anything, but that he had proximity. He'd seen things, maybe he'd heard things. And Milan? She was taking notes, even if only in her mind. For years, she kept that knowledge to herself. She focused on Milano de Rouge, her clothing brand that was already making waves before she met him. She made sure her narrative was about her hustle, not about a man. And yet, the more time passed, the more she allegedly saw and heard, and the harder it became to ignore the patterns.
My mom, she had my sister at 15. She dropped out of high school. She ended up going back and getting her GED, and she went to college to become a registered nurse. And I was telling my followers that because she made that sacrifice, it allowed me to dream. And I said, whoever is...
Milan didn't step into the music scene chasing fame. She wasn't a singer dreaming of a record deal or a model looking for a big break. She came in as a creator, a fashion entrepreneur, a designer who had already built a name among athletes and artists. That's what made her different. She didn't need anyone's cosign. And maybe that's why she noticed things others didn't. At first, it was subtle, a random comment at a party, half joking but with an edge. A stylist who pulled her aside and said, "Never stay in certain rooms too long." A young artist backstage, shaking, refusing to make eye contact, bits and pieces that didn't make sense on their own. But then came that word again: training. It would drop casually in conversations between powerful men, followed by a look or a laugh that didn't sit right. According to insiders, Milan wasn't naive. She started connecting dots. She paid attention. She listened when others dismissed. And what she allegedly gathered was enough to make her stomach turn. These so-called sessions weren't about rehearsals. They were about control, about breaking someone down early so they'd never challenge the system later. It was leverage disguised as mentorship. From what sources claim, these situations were private, intimate, sometimes coercive. A new artist would be invited to a meeting, told it was for development, maybe to meet someone important. There'd be drinks, friendly energy, and then the tone would shift. Requests that blurred lines, moments that were framed as tests. And the most chilling part, according to what Milan allegedly learned, these encounters were often recorded, not polished studio footage, just enough to remind someone later that they were compromised. The power players weren't random nobodies. We're talking about industry veterans, hit-making producers, executives with plaques on their walls, people who smile for magazine covers and preach empowerment in interviews. And yet, behind closed doors, the story sounded different. Milan never came out swinging. She wasn't reckless.
Surgery. I'm not insecure because I would have got plastic surgery. People make it, they all can turn around and thank Beyonce because that's it. And enough is enough. I'm fucking coming for everyone now. And even now,
But according to those close to her, she was watching everything. She didn't accuse Meek of participating, but some say she believed he knew enough to keep his distance. Whether it was loyalty, fear, or survival, she couldn't say. But silence in the face of something ugly still left a mark. During this time, Milan was also navigating her own milestones. She was pregnant, preparing to become a mother, managing a growing business. Publicly, she played the role expected of her, the stylish girlfriend, the supportive partner. Privately, she was allegedly coming to terms with how much power in the industry was built on intimidation, fear, and secrecy. When you're on the outside, training sounds harmless. To the uninitiated, it's just jargon. But insiders say the polite language masks something deeper. It's not a vocal warm-up, it's a loyalty test. It's an initiation to see who will follow orders, who will stay quiet, who can be owned. And once you've been introduced to that machine, insiders claim there's no unseeing it. Everything changed when Milan became a mother. Insiders say that shift turned her caution into something more urgent. Watching new women enter the industry, hearing echoes of those same whispers, and imagining her own child growing up in a world like that, it hit differently. Over the last few years, more stories have surfaced. Big names facing allegations, NDAs cracking, brave voices stepping forward. What was once dismissed as gossip now lands with weight. Arrests, lawsuits, exposés. The cultural climate shifted, and for Milan, that meant her silence was no longer just about survival. It was about responsibility. Sources say what really pushed her wasn't something done to her, but something she saw happening to others. Young women stepping into the same circles, trusting the wrong people, thinking opportunity was the only thing on the table. The industry hadn't changed, only the faces. And Milan, with her front row view, couldn't pretend it was harmless anymore. She still hasn't come out swinging with names. She's not trying to light everything on fire, but the way she started to talk, measured, deliberate, suggests she's preparing the ground. Maybe not for revenge, but for awareness. Maybe not to protect herself, but to protect the next girl walking into a meeting that's anything but business.
On the plane, coming here, because I do feel like, I think we gotta change the narrative.
For years, Milan Harris didn't say.
Here's the thing about Milan's alleged knowledge. It doesn't feel isolated. Anyone watching music, Hollywood, or entertainment has seen the cracks. Artists appear bright-eyed one moment and withdrawn the next. Some reach explosive fame only to crash or vanish. Others stay, but become strangely compliant. Their spark dulled. Look closely and you see patterns. Sudden mental health breaks, unexpected disappearances, whispers that never quite die. We chalk it up to fame. But what if it's something else? What if some of these shifts are symptoms of a culture that eats its own? For years, insiders have hinted at a shadow network. Executives who play gatekeepers, producers who mix business with power, mentors who turn to manipulators. And the rules are simple. You want access, you play along, don't ask questions, don't speak. Lawsuits and exposés have scratched the surface, claims of coercion, parties gone wrong, careers leveraged against silence. They get buried fast, usually under money and NDAs. But people like Milan, who weren't chasing a record deal, who had nothing to lose by noticing, became quiet observers. She saw how dancers, singers, assistants, all those dreaming of a shot could become pawns. And it changed her. Meek's world wasn't just music. It was politics, culture, influence. Being in that orbit meant seeing the machine up close. And according to insiders, Milan saw enough to know this. The game isn't just about talent, it's about compliance. And maybe that's why, slowly but surely, she's no longer content to be silent. Because the cost of staying quiet might be someone else's life, someone else's dream, someone else's dignity. So now, when you hear Milan Harris speak, carefully, calmly, but with purpose, it's not clout, it's not revenge, it's a warning. And if the whispers she allegedly heard are true, then the most terrifying thing about this industry isn't losing fame. It's what you give up just to get in.